So recently, Paul Finebaum took a shot at Lincoln Riley at USC, said he's been a disaster, it's a mess, it's terrible. There was this whole brouhaha about Lincoln Riley because, look, I guess we just forgot he won 11 games in his first year. Like, that just never happened. And look, all of you out there who think that I'm oddly defending Lincoln Riley and USC because I'm biased in some way, I would like you to go talk to USC fans and ask them what they think of me as it pertains to USC. I think the Lincoln Riley hate is going way too far. I mean, way too far. Now, I am, of course, but one person giving my opinion on the matter. So can I state that the pressure on Lincoln Riley to win is arguably greater than any other coach in the Big Ten? Yeah, I can argue that. Heck, you could argue it's really high on Dan Lanning and Ryan Day to win at a higher level, to get to a national championship game, or at least a national semifinal with the way that they have invested into their rosters with their NIL collectives and the amount of attention they've gotten in the transfer portal and the way they've recruited and the amount of time they've been there. Lanning's only in his third season, but still, expectations for those two schools very, very high. James Franklin at Penn State, I think, can fit into this category as well. They've been the perennial bridesmaid, never the bride, as Joel Klatt adequately has said many times on his show about Penn State in the playoff. They would have benefited more than any other program. If you'd had a 12-team playoff since 2014, they would have made it on multiple occasions, as in more than two. I think the number's something like 5 or 6. If they go 10-2 again, make the playoff, I think that quiets things down as it pertains to, questions about James Franklin's long-term outlook and whether he can build Penn State into a national championship program. I think that remains to be seen, but I like what I've seen so far. There are just other levels that he still has to take. So the reason it comes back to Lincoln Riley is because last year was such a big drop-off from the prior year. Never mind that they started the year 6-0 and faltered down the stretch. You can say, well, that makes it a whole heck of a lot worse. They lost 5 of their last 6 games. Yep, they did that. And they ended the year 7-5. And then won a bowl game with a backup quarterback against a good Louisville team that was in the ACC championship. I think that's pretty impressive, which is why I look at the record and say, yeah, that's a good 8-5. But it's still 8-5. So their first week game, as Carolyn and I were talking about against LSU, is going to put one of those coaches in a significantly negative light in the eyes of some of their fans. I don't think every fan is going to look at Lincoln Riley or Brian Kelly, whoever loses that first week game in Las Vegas. It's going to be utterly fantastic. I am stoked to watch that game. It's on a Sunday, too, so it's going to be a standalone. Brian Kelly's 0-2 in Week 1 non-conference games, by the way. Just kind of throwing that out there, and that game is closer to Los Angeles than it is to Baton Rouge. But if Lincoln Riley loses that game, I don't think the hot seat ratchets up because he's in year 3. He's in his 3rd season as the head coach of the University of Southern California. Are you going to fire someone or start talking about firing someone because he has an 11-3 season, an 8-5 season, and starts the year 0-1? Is that where you want to go? Because a conversation that I recall seeing play out in the media space or having with several fans as well over the years is Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh was hired, by the way, Kirby Smart was hired like 2015, 2016 or so. That's roughly when Jim Harbaugh was hired at Michigan as well. He didn't win a national championship here until 2024. He didn't even make the playoffs until 2022. But you want to move on from a coach after year 3? You want to say, look, Paul Finebaum can have whatever opinion he wants. That doesn't make him right. Because saying that Lincoln Riley's been a disaster? No. Was last year disappointing? Absolutely. Was it a nightmare season for USC? In many ways, yeah, it was. Because you saw the defensive cracks early in the year against teams like San Jose State, and then they reared their ugly head in a bad way, and the dam broke as the year went on, and they blew the game against Utah, and they couldn't stop Washington, and they lost pretty handily up at Oregon by double digits. Things really started to spiral, culminating in the loss against UCLA. I mean, that was not a great UCLA team. They were fine. They were 7-5. They were a real deal 7-5 football team. Losing that game, yeah, that was the disastrous point. Because I think even if you go 8-4 last year and you beat UCLA, and it wasn't Chip Kelly's first year at UCLA by any stretch of the imagination, the pressure conversation on Lincoln Riley is very different. But as it actually is, not as it could have been, Lincoln Riley, I think, is put under a microscope because he's at USC. Like, if you took over a program, let's think about it this way. USC's a big brand. They're playing in a big conference now. They've got plenty of money, and Lincoln Riley was a high-profile hire. He's going into year 3. His regular seasons, we'll just talk regular seasons here, 11-1, 7-5. Mike Elko is going to Texas A&M. High-profile program, a lot of money. He's not as big of a name. He doesn't generate the same sort of buzz. He's not as flashy. He's not as splashy of a name. If I did a segment on this show and put it on YouTube about Lincoln Riley, it's probably going to get more views than one about Mike Elko. That's just the way it goes. But if Mike Elko, in his first 2 years, taking over a program that has all the potential in the world but was in disarray because it wasn't run well by the previous administration, if he went 8-5, let's just flip the seasons, because college football, it can come down to a handful of plays. Let's say Mike Elko goes 8-5 this year and then 11-1 next year. What's your opinion of him? What's your opinion? He's doing great. He's building the program. But Lincoln Riley's flipped those years around. And because Lincoln Riley, for the first time ever in his coaching career, did not win 10 or more games, I'm supposed to believe that he's the village idiot, has no idea how to coach, he's going to flop in the Big Ten, has no idea what he's doing. Oh, he's not going to be able to play. Who do he hire as his defensive coordinator? Who do he hire? Again, I'm not sitting here saying that there isn't pressure on Lincoln Riley to win. They have a really, really tough schedule. So expecting them to make the Big Ten championship game is not where USC fans' heads should be at. If they win 8 or 9 games this year, ordinarily at USC, that's not up to the standard. But everyone wants to microwave things. And because Lincoln Riley and company had an 11-1 season in his first year, everyone expected, oh, you're going to be able to do that again, right? No, it's not that easy. It's not that easy, especially when wholesale changes needed to be made on the other side of the ball. If you want to argue that Lincoln Riley has set USC back on the timeline of the rebuild that he is overseeing because he didn't get rid of Alex Grinch sooner, I'm going to agree with you. I'm not going to push back on that notion. But any suggestion that Lincoln Riley is suddenly a horrible coach, or any suggestion that Lincoln Riley has no idea what he's doing, or that he's not making changes to make himself a better head coach, to run a better program, to win more games, I don't know where exactly it is coming from. He has become, I think, really low-hanging fruit because the criticism of him in recent years, 100% accurately, by the way, was, well, he didn't have a defense. He didn't have a good defensive coordinator. He's keeping his buddy around. Well, now he made the change, and the narrative around him hasn't changed. So do I expect USC to be a Big Ten contender this year? No, I think they're a dark horse team. Like, I could see them going 9-3, only losing 2 Big Ten games and finding their way in the conference championship game. Yeah, I could see them doing that. I absolutely can. Is their defense going to be great this year? No. But is their offense going to be good? Yeah, it should be. I expect it to be. Certainly going to have the potential, certainly going to have the firepower. They brought in a guy in Kyle Ford from UCLA, a transfer, former 5-star wideout, and I think that's kind of an under-the-radar move. But when he's getting lost in the shuffle, look, is this the best receiving core Lincoln Riley's ever had? Probably not. Is it still above average? Yeah. yeah, it's way above average. So if you get what you need from Miller Moss, if your offensive line is just capable a little bit and your defense is just okay, I know I listed off 3 things, but I'm not asking for the world. Then USC should be an 8 or 9 win team. And if they go 9-3 this year and they don't make the college football playoff, I don't want to hear that it was a failure of a season and that Lincoln Riley should be on the hot seat going into next year. Like, context, details, understanding the entirety of a situation all matter when talking about what a coach is capable of, what should be expected of him, and how much pressure he should be under. So Lincoln Riley is going to face more pressure in a lot of other people's heads than he faces in mine. So maybe you should just tune into this show more than the others. That'd be my advice. We'll see what he says this week at Big Ten Media Days. I will be there. Maybe I'll see some of you there. Who knows? Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.